Hi friends, it's Richard Ó'hAllmhuráin, Ó'hAllmhuráin, Ó'hScéilge. As usual, I've very little prepared. I meant to buy a tripod, sorry I didn't get around to it. Also I'm practicing a new filming technique, keeping my finger off the mic. So the sound might be a bit better today. How do I begin? I made a video maybe about a year ago now. It started with aliens are trying to take over the world. Except they're not really aliens. They've been here, they tell us, longer than we have. And yeah, some of them are native to Earth, some of them are not. Apparently the guys that are not native to Earth, they can't stay here. That's my understanding. Some of it channeled, some of them I got, or some of the information I got, verbatim. One of the Dracos, because these are the aliens I speak of. One of them told me they were having a problem getting out of the Matrix. So to expand on what the Matrix is, it's an electromagnetic field that mankind is living in. The polarity of a magnet, it's like an advanced form of that. When magnets repel, you feel force. In a similar way that in the last 20 years, flash drives have grown. Like I've got a 64 gigabyte flash card in this camera. It was only about 1995 that a 3 gigabyte drive was like a kilogram in weight. Anyway, I digress, because what brought me to that juncture, something to do with technology. Right, the matrix that we live in, it is an electromagnetic field run in an underground base. So this Draco that gave me some information, I went to Australia, and this Draco told me that they had to write in to the construct the places that I went to. So that's a weird one, but that's what they told me. What else have I got to tell you? Loads of stuff. David Icke covers it, of course. A guy called John Lash covers it. Archon is a term used. There are those that will disagree and tell you that Archon and Draco, they're different species. They could be. I wouldn't know. Right, but yeah, so you've got your underground base, you've got your electromagnetic construct. Yeah, so they're having a problem getting out of the Matrix. So that's a major problem if it increases, if it becomes more difficult to exit the Matrix. So it's in the common good for us, mankind, and these guys, that we return to the surface. At the moment, mankind, on the surface, we have nothing. They tell you that if you want to succeed in life, you do so in the Matrix. Yeah, so what else is going on? You know, there's a lot of stuff. Folklore, of course. You've got your Dedanan, the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the goddess Danu. The story is told in folklore. Yeah, they came here in flying ships, all of this stuff. It's all factual, of course, but in our society, yeah, another one is channeling information. In our society, it's not taken seriously. So, yeah, the spiritual, ability of being able to channel, you don't get college grades for that. So what else is going on? Yeah, the folklore. I talked about David Icke. Yeah, there's the goddess Sophia, and that too is quite factual, but again it's deemed as legend. Anyway, so I didn't read all that much. I read John Lash's book. Right, so there's another one, another book, Chariots of the Gods. Yeah, right, I've got to watch out for this microphone, right? Hopefully the sound will be better on this particular cut. But yeah, there's tons of Ancient Aliens, of course. It runs on mainstream television. So the Anunnaki, you could Google the word Anunnaki, and it's like ANNUKI and ANNUN and on AKI, yeah. That'll bring you to the Sumerian tablets. A guy called this writer, not Eric von Daniken. He writes a story called, he writes a book called The 12th Planet. The 12th Planet is interesting because, we know of 9, but the Sumerians counted the moon and one other, which is known as Planet X, wrote of Nibiru. And these guys, the Archons, the Dracos, so that's where they came from. I read that they came in spaceships, and some of them crash landed at the time, about 130,000 years ago. Their technology was at about the same level that we're at now. Anyway, yeah, one thing that they don't like, groups of men and women, of course, going into joy. So the music industry, that's like a front line in the war between us and them. What else is going on? Well, there are groups, like Hell's Angels, Millwall football fans. I talked about the rock and roll guys, about the bands that you like and the songs that are about freedom. The Dracos, they'd put a stop to it if they could. But that's where the war, that's the front line. One of them. So, folklore, rock and roll, yeah, the Firm. There is some humour in this game. What else is going on? I don't know all that much. The moon, of course, apparently it's some kind of relay for the planet Saturn, and the matrix that we live in is run from Saturn. The stone circles, and I would say the Irish round towers. There's another book, a guy called McCarthy, I forget the first name, he wrote about the Irish round towers, and yeah, so the stone, they act like a cosmic antenna. The stone circles, the fairy forts, of which there are like 46,000, they anchor this matrix. And what else is going on with the stone circles? It may be the case that they're not used as much anymore, but there's a very big resistance or opposition to any notion, and I'd go along with it, that the idea of dismantling the network of stone, I mean, it's happening in the Middle East. But if you want to start World War III, you might get into that project by about 0.1%. The JCBs would break down, the managing director would have a heart attack, lightning would strike. You know, I'd be against any notion that the network of stone be tampered with. But it does, that's my understanding, anchor the matrix. So I wonder if I'll wrap up. Yeah. Well, what I will say, my New Age friends, channeled material, it's all out there on the internet at the moment. You know, they'd like to close it down, the Dracos, but they can't. I'll wrap up. Namaste. Richie.